Heads up, parents of school-aged children, your student's free after-school program may not be available in the fall or for the foreseeable future. During a state board work session Thursday, State Superintendent Dr. Eric Mackey revealed they just don't have the money anymore.
We are losing a couple of $1 billion in ESSER funds in September.
ESSER is Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Funds the federal government provided during the pandemic to support remote learning.
Hey folks, Dale Jackson here for Yellowhammer Now. Let's talk a little bit about this funding, because if you read these stories, what you're going to take away from them is the idea that there are some massive cuts coming to the school system, and we're going to see some massive problems here because we just don't spend enough money on schools. Well, wrong answer as always. What they're talking about in that story, and I had to go back a couple weeks in order to find something about that done by the electronic media that I could access, and they're missing the whole point. This money, it's now $500 million they have to spend by the end of September, so about a month here. And they're scrambling to do so because they want to spend that money. They want all that money. They need more money, and they don't have enough money. But they have to spend this $500 million now, or they'll lose it to the federal government. So they're all scrambling across the state in order to try and do just that. But here's the problem with all of this. It's not just Alabama having this problem. Look at Michigan.
It's affecting the central nervous system. Michigan schools are on the verge of losing millions of dollars. Funding ends 2 months from today, and the money from the federal government will expire if it's not used. The money was part of the American Rescue Plan Act, known as the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief, or ESSER. Right now, Michigan schools have to spend a little more than $578 million by September 30th. As Courtney Bennett reports, if they don't, the money goes back to the federal government.
If the dollars went unspent, it would be a real missed opportunity. This federal funding doesn't come along often. Hopefully never again we have a pandemic like we saw.
During the pandemic, schools across the country received billions of dollars to address the needs of students. The one-time ESSER dollars were dispersed in 3 rounds. Now it's crunch time to spend the remaining money here in Michigan.
Now, the fact that I even called this a problem is almost laughable, because Michigan has $500 million plus that they haven't spent. Alabama has $500 million plus that it hasn't spent. And through mismanagement, the state of Alabama lost out on $20 million other dollars. Just FYI, that might be worth noting. Maybe there's a head that might want to roll over that $20 million. Might be worth looking at. If I was the state superintendent, maybe might be worth something. But that's $1 billion right there. All this money that came from the federal government during COVID, as was mentioned in the first story, was supposed to go to help with remote learning. Are your free after-school programs remote learning? Are all these other projects remote learning? No, none of it's remote learning. They've been spending it on whatever they want to spend it on. It's just like the other money that they gave the state. We're spending that on a prison, I believe? What are we doing? And this is happening all over the country. So here we are again, just throwing money at a problem without a plan. When they put that money into the state because of the pandemic, it wasn't used for the pandemic. It didn't make life better during the pandemic for anybody. Instead, what they did is they kept it and spent it. And now here we are in 2024 dealing with COVID-19, which came about in 2020. Okay, either way, the fact of the matter is this. You have a bunch of bureaucrats and politicians with their hands on $500 million, and they're being told to spend it or lose it. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to waste it. This is how government works. This is government inefficiency. If the state of Alabama needed that money, they would have spent it by now. Isn't that interesting? They have $500 million, yet 2 municipalities in the state of Alabama had to vote down tax increases yesterday. Sorry, this doesn't really work for me. The federal government wasted a ton of your money, gave it to the states for the state to waste a ton of your money. And we're going to hear a lot about how the state is in a financial hole because of this and all these other things. You live within your means. You do not continuously hope that there will be another pandemic so we can spend more money. But that's basically what we're hoping for here. That the federal government will continue dumping money into the state and we'll be able to keep going. Eventually, it's going to have to stop. We had the stimulus program. We have this, and there's going to be another one around the corner. Don't worry. Don't worry. They're going to tell you we need to spend more money. We need to have more money. We need to spend more money. We need to have more money. We need to raise more money. We need to spend more money. They're going to tell you all of this, and it will never be enough. These are also the same people that tell you that school choice will bankrupt the school systems. Just remember that next time you hear that. They had $500 million sitting on the table, and they couldn't find a place to spend it, but they need more. Just keep that in mind the next time you hear about that. Have someone explain it. And I can already tell you what the answer is going to be. Well, this money, understand it had to be used for this or that or that. Well, did you need it? Clearly you didn't if you're looking for a way to spend it. And you're not spending it on remote learning, and that didn't even work. So here we are again, looking at the results of a massive government program that was a complete disaster, fiscally and in function. We shouldn't be surprised by this because it keeps happening on the state level and on the federal level. And the bureaucrats in the state of Alabama, keep this in mind, are going to have to give money back to the federal government that they don't spend, that they needed so badly. And the federal government gave it to the state. The state wasn't clamoring, give me. So it's not necessarily their fault, but they didn't spend it. But we also missed out on $20 million. Are any heads going to roll for any of this? Probably not.